are here today at Curated, and today we're gonna do something that we probably should have done a long time ago. What is our DNA? It has to be the Lamborghini Countach. While most kids were playing Nintendo, playing with baseball cards, I was definitely researching the Lamborghini Countach. I was very fortunate enough to be around at one point 20, 30 cars at my dad's service facility in Palm Beach. So as a kid, I used to look through owner's manuals, I used to research as much as I could, and one thing I realized was that even today, there's hardly any information on the Countach available to consumers. So let's say since, I don't know, January of last year, we've probably sold like 8 or 10 Countaches, which considering that's a lot of cars. In all of the calls that we've gotten from clients from around the world, guess what? Everyone wanted to know more info. They wanted to know details, production numbers. So one of the things that we're here to do today is pad of paper, pen, simply go through the evolution of arguably the greatest car of all time, the Lamborghini Countach. So let's start 1974. This is, in many ways, the car that still looks the purest today. There's no wing, no flares. It's a very, very crude, and in many ways, it looks like a small car. There's no wide wheels, and that is the famous periscope car, also known as the LP400. Lamborghini produced probably roughly around 150 of these cars from 1974. And many of the cars today, we've seen great, incredible restorations. The cars have been shown at major concours d'elegance, and these are the cars that have set the whole market in many ways. I think about 2 years ago, a car sold during the Monterey auctions for almost 1.8 million. And today you could average price, you can find these cars priced right around $1 million. Incredible car, incredible piece of history. I think in many ways, they're still a little tame. That brings us to the next car, the LP400S. So the S cars are really the first example of a Countach that you would have seen on your wall as a sort of a poster or a model. These are the first cars with flares. They're the first cars with a wing. Yes, in some ways, these are the first sort of ostentatious wild cars. These cars, in many ways, were actually inspired by Walter Wolf and his race team. And he actually had modified and had the factory modify a few early periscope cars. These cars are very, very cool. They came in sort of 3 different series. Some had these incredible magnesium wheels. These cars, going back in history, I think are really, and I don't want to say this, but I have to, maybe the most important Countach ever made. This is the first car with the famous fat Pirelli P7 tires. These are the first cars that really sort of shocked the world. I think estimate is Lamborghini made about 282 of these cars. The cheapest of the LP400S cars I've ever seen were probably around $450,000 in the last few years. A couple really, really nice examples sold at auction. I think there was a green car that sold almost close to $1 million. There was an incredible copper car. What's funny is you'll actually see this is an owner's manual for a 5,000 QuattroValvole, and they still have this photo of the LP400S on the owner's manual. Just to show you how limited production these cars were, Lamborghini didn't make too many changes over the progression of cars. This car is also most commonly referred to as the low body car, as it actually has a lower suspension. It looks like some aftermarket tuner sort of slammed the cars to the ground. We're very, very fortunate to have one of these cars in our inventory now. It's a pretty unique car as it's one of 2 modified twin turbo cars from the distributor Max Bobnar. But these are a very, very important car of Lamborghini history, and let's say they range from $500,000 to $1 million. Now the next phase of cars isn't, I would say, an interesting microcosm of Countaches, because it really is the first car that made the Countach eligible for the USA market. That changed everything, let's face it. So we've got the periscope first, 1974, LP400S. These cars were made from 1977 to 1980, 81, and then the introduction of the 5000S. This was a very, very similar car to the LP400S low body. They were a little higher, they were a touch bigger. They had a modified interior, so the interior was actually, I guess you could say, less crude. And the horsepower was bumped up. It was the 5000S. Very, very cool car. These cars were made famous in the movies such as like Cannonball Run. I think the first Cannonball Run was actually an LP400S. The Cannonball Run 2 car was the 5000S. So very, very cool car. And Lamborghini made about 321 of these cars. What's interestingly enough, and not many people even know this, is that in 1984, 1985, this was the first time that Lamborghini as a factory started to import cars into the US. They actually imported them through you could call it an aftermarket, two guys, Jaws and Trevor Thomas, who were building kits for these cars to import to the US to pass EPA DOT. Lamborghini sort of copied these, and that's what brought in the first 5000S fuel-injected cars. So there's probably about 15 cars that were actually authorized by the factory. These are very, very rare cars. And this brought about the first famous USA Lamborghinis. So here we go. We've got, so these cars were 1983, by the way, to 1985 for the 5000S, and then early 1985 brings about the QV. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe to the channel. It's in our DNA. We'll have more Countach content. We'll also have more content about a ton of other incredible vintage supercars.